Brexit has made us all poorer, every single one of us. And that erosion of standards of living is causing people concern, which is why I think they're turning to Farage. And the irony, of course, is that the thing that's made us poorer is Brexit, and the author of Brexit was Farage.
John Swinney, welcome to PoliticsJOE.
Good to see you, Ed. Thank you.
We're here in Hamilton for the by-election in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse. What have you made of the campaign so far?
It's been a campaign that we, of course, didn't want to fight because it's prompted by the death of Christina McKelvey, who was essentially the epitome of what a good Scottish parliamentarian should be. She was generous, she was loyal, she was kind, she was interested and passionate about the community that she served. So, and Christina had a tremendous role within my parliamentary group. She was someone that brought people together, a great kind of a person of cooperation within the group and goodwill. So we didn't really want to have to fight it, but we are having to fight it since Christina sadly died. The campaign's been intensely fought. We've put a huge amount of effort into the campaign to make sure that we can win the constituency. There's been parts of the debate that I think have been really concerning. The content that Farage has brought into the campaign has been deeply unpleasant, and it's so important that we repel that tomorrow.
Were you shocked at that tenor of language and imagery that the Reform Party have been using?
I suppose yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I think it's a huge difference in approach within a Scottish election campaign. It's not something that we're accustomed to in Scottish election campaigns. But no, in the sense that I've watched what Farage gets up to, and I can see exactly what he's likely to do and how he's likely to play it. And it's not really that out of kilter with how Farage goes about his business.
We'll come back to Farage and the by-election. I'd like to talk about immigration. The SNP and you yourself have been very critical of the Labour government's plans on immigration. You said that they're dancing to the tune of reform, but polling shows that a majority of Scots actually back the UK government's plans on immigration. Are you out of touch?
I've got to make sure that I address the realities of what we face in Scotland today. So if you look at the specifics of the immigration proposals, one of the proposals is to stop the ability of foreign nationals to come in and to work in our health and social care service. Well, our social care service in Scotland today, 26% of care home workers come from other countries. So we depend on those individuals to actually deliver the care upon which our loved ones depend. So that's a very practical issue about the composition of our population and our workforce. Now, we've got a problem in Scotland, which is we've got a declining working age population. So we need to increase that working age population. We've got very low unemployment, and we need to have migration to boost our population. So on the substance of the issues that need to be addressed about how we put in place, have enough workers to work in our care homes or work in our hospitals or work in our businesses, we need to have a positive attitude towards migration. Now, I chaired a round table just the other week there after the UK government proposed the immigration green paper. And across the education, food and drink, engineering, social care, health and hospitality sectors, there was unanimity that these proposals were going to be damaging for Scotland. So I've got to lead the debate about this question, because if I don't, we'll end up with a shortage in our working age population, and that means we won't be able to fulfil our economic potential.
It's been projected that Reform could win a number of seats in the next Holyrood election. I've seen numbers between 10 and 21. Do you have a sense of why Scots may be looking to Reform for solution, for a change?
I think people are basically facing quite a hard time just now. When you look at the combination of the financial crash, austerity, Brexit, COVID, the energy price spike after the invasion of Ukraine, these are all seismic events, all of which, one after the other, have undermined people's standard of living. Principal amongst them is Brexit. Brexit has made us all poorer, every single one of us. And that erosion of standards of living is causing people concern, which is why I think they're turning to Farage. The irony, of course, is that the thing that's made us poorer is Brexit, and the author of Brexit was Farage. So there's no way that Farage offers the answer. He caused the problem, and he can't give us the answer.
The SNP got routed by Labour at the general election. So is it politically useful for you to talk up Farage as a bogeyman for staying in the UK? There's polling that suggests that there's a correlation between the threat of Farage and support for Scottish independence. Are you just talking him up so that people vote for the SNP and independence?
What I've been doing is I've been looking at the reality of what I'm hearing on the doorsteps, and it's pretty clear on the doorsteps of this constituency that Farage is a real threat and the Labour Party is out of the race. So and when I talk about Farage as a real threat, I can see that in the numbers, that his support is growing. Now, what I'm trying to do is to warn people that there is a risk that Farage gets a foothold in Scottish politics. And I don't want that to be the case. I want us to not have our politics contaminated by the type of approach that Farage is taking forward. So that needs people to vote SNP to stop Farage, and that's exactly what I've been saying to folk.
We talked about it earlier, and our audience is largely English, so they might not be across Scottish politics, as perhaps I would like. To clarify the advert that we were talking about earlier, Reform put out a Facebook advert that suggested that Anas Sarwar had said he would prioritise the Pakistani community, the South Asian community, at the expense of Scotland, and obviously Anas Sarwar said nothing of the sort. Do you think the advert was racist?
Yes, I do.
Why do you say that?
Because it's essentially trying to use the race issue as a means of undermining one of my political rivals, Anas Sarwar. So they thought, well, let's just think about this for a minute. This is an advert about my principal political rival in Scotland, Anas Sarwar, leader of the Scottish Labour Party. I've been one of the first to condemn that advert by Nigel Farage because I find it so distasteful. So it's not only distasteful, it's wrong, because Anas Sarwar said nothing of the sort. But I think we've got to look at this rationally and say we don't want to have that type of argument imported into our politics. So we've got to find a mechanism and a means to make sure that doesn't happen, and that can only happen by voting for the SNP, because we're the only ones strong enough to beat Farage in this constituency.
Are you concerned when you look down to the Labour government? They seem to be everything. They seem to preempt the reform attack almost. But to many would say they are not fighting. They're not fighting dirty enough. Well, are you prepared to fight dirty to beat Farage?
What I'm prepared to do is what I am doing, which is confronting and challenging Farage. My criticism of the Labour government is that they're not criticising and confronting Farage. They're basically moulding themselves in their own image. Like, it's patently obvious the Prime Minister is more interested in listening to Nigel Farage than he is in listening to the people of Scotland. That's what the Prime Minister's now doing, and he's changing his tack on a whole host of different issues to essentially mimic Farage. So people of Scotland need to look at the current situation and realise they've now got a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom who's more interested in listening to Nigel Farage than he is in listening to the people of Scotland.
Do you feel he should be listening to you? How's your relationship with the Prime Minister?
I engage with the Prime Minister on different issues. I'm frustrated about certain things. The Labour government promised when they came into office they would save the Grangemouth refinery. I've discussed that with the Prime Minister on countless occasions. What's happened? They stopped refining at the Grangemouth refinery. So the Labour government that got votes promising that they would make sure the Grangemouth refinery continued the operation have failed. They've not delivered that promise to the people of this country. So that's what I'm concerned about, that there's a lot of big promises from the Labour government and then they're not delivering. And then, of course, there's other issues. So the abolition of winter fuel payments for pensioners has been, the source of, if one issue has epitomised the problem of the Labour Party in this election campaign here, it's winter fuel payments for pensioners, where people literally cannot believe that a Labour government came into office and one of the first things it did was to abolish winter fuel payments. That's inconceivable. But that's what they did. And that's why Labour is absolutely struggling in this by-election.
Is it frustrating the media coverage of this election, and I suppose this interview has just focused on Nigel Farage? Do you find that frustrating? Do you rather focus on the issues?
I've got to deal with the issues that come my way, and I've got to deal with the political debate as it surrounds me. So I can't ignore the fact that Farage is a factor in this election. I'm hearing it on the doorsteps. The question is, what do we do about it? My message to voters in this election is to vote for the SNP to stop Farage and to see him off, and that's at the heart of our message.
The main words I'm hearing, particularly from politicians, less so in the street, is that people are scunnered. That seems to be the words that people are using, and people in Scotland have a lot to be scunnered about. The waiting list for the NHS is projected to be 1 million by December 2026. We're still got the record drug deaths in Europe. House building targets are not being met. Why should someone hoping for change bother voting for the SNP who've been in power since 2007?
Because we've delivered a great deal of improvements in the lives of people in Scotland. So far,
Heart model, and I've just mentioned.
Well, I'll go through some of the different issues. Early learning and childcare. So all 3 and 4-year-olds in Scotland get full school day of early learning and childcare, and a lot of 2-year-olds get that as well. And it saves parents thousands of pounds a year in childcare. Best offer on childcare in the whole of the United Kingdom. Scottish students going to Scottish universities don't pay tuition fees, unlike in England. Council tax is largely lower in Scotland than it is in other parts of the UK. People have got access to free prescriptions. I'm just about to abolish peak rail fares in Scotland to save people more money, again addressing a cost of living crisis. You mentioned housing. Scotland's built more affordable housing per head of population over the years of the SNP government than in any other part of the United Kingdom, in England or in Wales. And we are tackling long waits. We've got, I accept that there's challenges in our health service, the first to accept that, but we're recovering from the COVID pandemic, and we're working to get the long waiting list down so that people are getting treatment earlier, and lots of people are getting treatment in an efficient and an effective timescale. So for all these reasons, the SNP has delivered for people in Scotland. What they've now got is a government intensely focused on eradicating child poverty. Scotland's the only part of the United Kingdom where child poverty is going down when it's going up in the rest of the UK. We've got a commitment to expand the economy. Our economy is growing. We've set out our agenda for getting to net zero, and we're improving our public services. That's the heart of the government's agenda, and I'm focused on delivering that for the people of Scotland.
John Swinney, thank you very much.